I'm very honored today to be speaking with Leslie Logan and Brad Crowell, who together form a powerful business partnership. Congratulations for the publishing of your article on Authority magazine titled Five Things We Wish We Had Known as a Couple Doing Business Together. I'm sure there's a story behind that. Your bios are very impressive, and I'm abbreviating them a little bit for this interview. Leslie is the world's leading expert on how Pilates changes your life for good and is the co-founder of OnlinePilatesClasses.com, plus a few other brands. Brad is the CEO of As the Crows Fly, which is the parent company of several successful companies. His 16 years of startup experience have helped his team to enable several brands to thrive. You each had successful careers individually. How did you begin to work together?
Um, well, the short version is when we started dating, he actually built me a new website as a flirty, like, hey, babe, your website's old. Let me make a website. And
Really great pickup line. I recommend it.
yeah. And so he did that for me. And then, so that was about 2014. I've been teaching Pilates since 2008. And then in the next few months, he's like, you should be on YouTube. You should just do a YouTube channel. So then he's filming my YouTube videos. He's editing my YouTube videos and putting them up. And then he's like, you should have a newsletter. We call it No Newsletter. You've got to build a list. And I was like, okay, I got to build a list. And so he just kept doing these like little things that just kept building my business. And I started traveling the world. And we had a business coach that we were both working with. He was working for his companies, I was working for mine, but secretly I was hoping that he would hear things for mine since he kept inputting himself. And the guy was like, what do you want? And I was like, I just want him to work with me, but you have to help that. And he told Bryce, like, well, everything you want, she's doing. So why don't you just do it with her? And so in 2019, he came on full.
So it took a coach to actually seal the deal.
Yeah, somewhat like a facilitator.
Yeah, he told me, hey, because I was running a web development company at the time, and she was obviously running an online membership for Pilates. And he said, hey, so my wife has an online fitness company, and I had a web development company, and I was filming all these things and had a filming company. And I was like, that's exactly our situation. And he said, yeah, I can show you how to shut all that down, work with your wife, grow your company. In fact, he said, we did that. It took us 4 years to hit the number that we were trying to go for as far as gross revenue, and we've maintained it 4 years since, and it's changed our lives. And I was like, yes, please.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you're very grateful for that coaching.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it was awesome.
I understood from the article that the pandemic hit shortly after you consolidated your businesses. How did
Yeah.
that impact your business and your relationship?
You know, I was really nervous because it wasn't, I mean, the pandemic would have impacted us anyways as a couple because his businesses would have been affected by it as well. But now it's like, oh, but this business has to pay for both of us. It's not like, we could each be focusing on just, bringing it all together. So I had a little nervousness there, but actually I'm a really good ideas machine and he's really good at cherry picking the good ones. And so I threw out some ideas of what we could do to start the pandemic that would actually help us kind of buy ourselves some time. And then really what we felt like is that the pandemic kind of was a great accelerator. Contrary to what people think, they think, oh, you were online already. It must have been amazing for you. That's not true. We actually lost members of the pandemic because of the free stuff that was online. And so we had a lot of work we had to kind of do, but because we were able to buy ourselves some time, we were able to take ourselves and go, okay, well, we got rid of all the distractions, like the travel and the in-person studio is gone. So now all we have to focus on is this. And he really took the reins of CEO at that time, as opposed to operations, and really helped build a team so that I could just focus on the members and he could focus on leadership of the team.
Yeah, I think my biggest fear before we really merged businesses and combined everything was saddling my life and my, monthly bills with like on her business, like forcing it to make the money. And then I almost felt like my biggest fears came to life when the pandemic hit and all of our planned income just was like cut. And it
Yeah.
was like, oh, well, what are we going to do now? And so we were forced to, in the tech world, they say pivot, which is a very overused word at this point, but we were forced to be creative, to come up with a new way to replace the income that we immediately lost. And we were able to do that because I think because we leaned on our strengths. She is an ideas machine and she's constantly ideating, constantly. And so, and then my background and my forte is execution and implementation. And so, when there was stress put on the business, the ideas really started to fly, and it gave me the opportunity to say yes, no, yes, no. And we were able to take the ones that made sense and leverage them. And then, that helped us replace the income that we had lost from our travel gigs. Yeah.
It sounds like it helped you, first of all, look at new options, but also to narrow your focus and combine your concentrated efforts. Okay. So at one time, you literally changed roles. How come?
So, I know. So, okay, when you start a business, you're the boss because you started this thing, and I was I was the CEO because everyone called me that, and it's like they're like, "What is your role?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm the CEO." That's the thing when you're the bank is figure out who you are. And so when he came on, because he was the head of operations for the startup house that he was at, he's like, "Yeah, I'm ops," and I'm like, "Great." I mean, that's what he was doing behind the scenes, anyways. But it was really frustrating for everybody because he's like, "Hey, you need to be in this meeting. You need to be in this meeting," and I'm like, "I can't be in these. I don't even do meetings. Like, I don't want to be in any meeting."
Yes.
I want to be with the people. I want to be planning. I want to be creative. I don't want to be, what is this meet? What are we we're late on a project again? Like, I don't, that sounds terrible. Like, I don't, it's depressing. And so we had another coach that we worked with, who's a dear friend of ours now today. And she sat down with us and she went through some questions with us. And we realized in those questions, she talked about like 3 different things that you have to have roles in your business. You need to have the entrepreneur, you need to have an ops person, and then you have to have marketing. What was the third one?
There's a 3 triangles. I'm drawing a blank on it now, but yeah.
Yeah. So there's the CEO, there's the creative, and there's the ops person.
Yeah.
And what we realized is like you can put yourself on a line. So you could be between 2 and closer to one more than the other. You can be on a corner. And so when he put himself towards that CEO entrepreneurial corner. And I was like, yeah, creative. Hello. Like, that's where I want to be. And so while I can do the high level business vision and all of that stuff, I really want to be with the products and the projects and the clients. And so we were really lucky because of the pandemic. There were some opportunities that were available to a small business that weren't before. And he moved into the CEO role. I moved into, we call myself the chief Pilates officer, or chief visionary officer. And we were able to take the SBA loan we were offered as a small business to hire an operations person. And so we are a couple who works together, and both of our sisters work with us. So we really made it weird.
Yeah.
I don't know that would involve a lot of family all the time, but we happen to know her and trust her, and she knew the business. And so that's how we switched the roles. It was also just someone telling you could, like, I think it might sound crazy to people listening to this, but I didn't know that I didn't have to be the CEO. I didn't know that I could be the president of a business, but be over here with this role. And that just wasn't something I saw people do. So sometimes it takes an outsider to tell you have permission.
Yeah. I think like Leslie was saying, the permission structure was the thing that it's kind of funny because we sat down, we looked at our strengths, we looked at what we naturally saw ourselves doing, how we envisioned our lives going, and we kind of put that up on the board and then realized that, I mean, we kind of had a laugh. We switched roles. I was trying to be the ideator and she was trying to manage all the stuff. And that's not our natural inclination. And when our coach was like, what if you guys just like And all of a sudden things really started to flow a lot better. But it became apparent really fast that it was too much for me to try to wear multiple hats with the operations, because the operations were getting complicated, and that's where we had to replace me when we hired someone. Yeah.
It sounds like you just needed to align yourself with your natural gifts and,
Yeah.
and find
I, you know,
someone else to pick up whatever the gaps were.
exactly, Nancy. And I think if anyone takes anything away, that is like the best thing you could always do, whether you work for your spouse or you work for yourself, or with like really aligning your gifts does make things, it's always hard. Like any business is hard,
I
you
think
know?
especially if you work with your spouse, but it's, it's funny because this obviously is about working as a couple, but I would suggest it's literally any partnership. Like you don't have to be married to your business partner
Yes.
to still have different strengths. I mean, you have different strengths, and if you are able to divvy up the work where you can shine in the things that you're amazing at, and they can shine in the things that they're amazing at, and then uh, just like the Clifton Strengths like philosophy goes around Strengths Finders, like surround yourself with people whose strengths are not your own or not your partner's own, then you can succeed.
You know, I've run my coaching business for years by myself, and over the last few years, I have 3 family members that are working for me. And it's been a learning process for me to let go of
Oh yeah.
responsibilities and realize I don't have to do it all. I'm not good at a lot of it. I'm grateful that they are working their strengths on my behalf.
Yeah.
Okay, good job. So, how do you manage conflict between the two of you?
Um,
That's an optional question. You can avoid it if you want to.
oh, I
We're happy to talk
first of
about
all, I think it's like it's not like I wish that like it was always handled like you would handle it. Like if we weren't married and we just worked with each other, like how would I handle it? You just don't do that because there is so much like you're so close, you're so personal. You
Yeah,
can't the boundaries are blurred. So we try really hard, obviously on Zoom calls to be like, excuse me, can we explain that more? Like, but when the Zoom calls are no one else on the team is around, it's like, sometimes it's like WTF, like how come this isn't done? Like what's going on? What do you need? But at the same time, um, you have to be careful about what you bring into the conflict. So we're really good at our conflicts are mostly just around our business, which is really nice, and not bringing personal stuff into the business stuff. Like you've got to keep it separate. And so I find that that's really good for us. And then also like, somebody once said, like, do you want to win or do you want to make it work? And I think that's a really good reminder. It's like, okay, hold on. Like, what's going on here? Okay, we don't have enough. We're stretched ourselves out. We're stretched too thin. So we're not delegating enough. And so one of us always is good at trying to stay calm when the other one's upset and going, okay, so what do you need here? How can we make this helpful? Because we do have a team that we can lean on. And sometimes a lot of conflicts can be solved by just having more help.
Yeah, we didn't always though have a team, but I think that the you touched on it, but I want to emphasize the understanding that uh, there are days where I've got it together and I'm feeling confident and strong, and she's not. And there are days where she's got it together and feeling confident and strong, and I'm not, right? And because we are married and we do love each other and we do have life together as well, there's no way to avoid the external things that impact our business relationship because
right,
it's part of our lives.
right.
However, there's an understanding that I think we both agreed to of like if one of us is having a bad day, then it's okay for the other person to make a decision and be the person who's like, all right, we got this, and stand up. And that changes, when it just changes based on how we are in the moment. But I think ultimately uh the foundation of our marriage is what actually makes the business even stronger,
Right.
because same commitment that we have to each other of like, hey, life, we're gonna figure it out. We're excited. We want to be together forever. That kind of applies to the business. So when we come up against some incredibly challenging things, maybe we do have to like take a deep breath, come back to it tomorrow, but we're going to continue to work on it and try to figure out how do we make our way through this, whatever the thing might be.
Well, and I think what's also really cool as a couple is because you are outside of, hopefully other couples are not working 24/7. We're really good at going, these are our work hours, these are not work hours, or this is, I need to do some more work today. Like communication is very key.
I'd say we've gotten better. At first, that wasn't our
No.
natural inclination. We were just like,
Well,
no.
we also started working together in 2020, and that everybody kind of overworked themselves.
There was no weekends weren't a thing in 2020 if you were an entrepreneur. You worked every second of every day because there was a lot of fear underlying everything.
But what we are really good at now, and we've gotten better at over the last 4 years working together, is going, hey, I've noticed that this keeps coming up as an issue. And so it's cool because we are married and we do work together. We're seeing each other outside of work, inside of work. And it's like, you can see the thing. It's like, maybe we should how do we handle this consistent pattern that's happening? And, I think that that's really helpful because I don't know, maybe if you went to work and then you went home, you might not see that there's a pattern with some of the conflicts that are happening.
Right. We can't be at 100% every day. So, one of the benefits of a partnership is when you're at 60%, he can be at 100 and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've also gotten better in the last 2 years of just going, do we both have to be at this meeting? Like really going, okay, how much does it cost if we're both at the meeting? Like, so we've really, I think that also helps with conflict in a business, in a relationship, is like allowing one person to have some time off if they're needing it, or a change of scenery. Yeah.
So the quality of your marriage is actually the foundation of the success of your business. How do you nurture your private relationship apart from the business?
Well, we do nightly walks every night with our dogs after dinner, and no work is allowed. And we also have dinner together as pretty much every night, unless one of us is like, hey, I have a friend in town. But most of the time we're having dinner together, either cooks it or we bring it in, and we don't work during that either. And so that I think is really important to like end the day kind of just like with a relaxed state. We also like to have adventures, and he's really like, I'm an ideas person and I come up with these things, and then he takes the creative part of him, because he used to be I would still call you a musician, but he has this creative part of him. He's like, here's 17 other things we can do with that adventure you just thought about. And so I think that's really fun, is that we're not afraid to like take off for a day or a weekend, or take a work trip and make it a little longer to have some adventure in there and have some time to ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I think going back to strengths, both of us have communication in our top 5 strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been incredibly beneficial for coming up with a compromise, because we do innately communicate, right? And for example, one thing is that I know has benefited us is she's a morning person. I'm a night person, right? I'll stay up till 2, 3 in the morning. She gets up at like 5, 6 in the morning, right? So we almost have these opposite lifestyles, even though we're in the same house, right? And what we realized pretty early on was that I might be talking to you in the morning, but I am not processing anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember what the conversation was. And then vice versa. At the end of the day, she is done, does not want to think, does not want to be creative, right? And it creates stress, right? So what we realize is we should have our meetings in the afternoons so that we can both be awake and there and present. And so kind of creating that boundary has allowed us to maximize our time when we're working. And then at the same time, I did say earlier, we get better at making sure we have time off. We made an intentional decision not to work during dinner, an intentional decision not to talk about work during the walk, an intentional decision to take one weekend every quarter to drive somewhere and explore the world, this amazing world that we live in, right? So and then because we both enjoy travel, when we do travel for work, we also try to button it, end cap it with some days off where we can explore again, and that's important.
Yeah. And I think like us having our alone time in the morning and at night really allows us to value the time not working together. I think it's really easy to take that stuff for granted, especially if you're on similar schedules, because you'll see them later. And because I have my me time in the morning, he has his alone time at night. When we do see each other, it's really good time spent together. So yeah.
What I'm taking from all that you've said is that you're really good at setting up healthy boundaries to protect your marriage, as well as boundaries that make the business work for you. I've interviewed a lot of business couples, and a word that keeps coming up over and over again, and I've heard you describe it, although you haven't used the word, is they have non-negotiable times that are couple times. You mentioned your walk with your dog in the evening and having dinner together. It sounds like those are non-negotiables for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Also like that, if he has an idea while we're walking, or I have an idea while we're walking, the non-negotiable is, okay, put it in the calendar for the next time we meet. Like, thank you. Love it. Make enough notes so you remember what this great idea was at the next meeting. Because it's just it's too easy to work all the time when you're a couple. It's too easy for entrepreneurs to work all the time, but especially
we have home offices, so like we're together.
But we did get our own offices, and so
we do have them separate on the other side of the house for each other. I talk really loud on the phone.
My mother is like, well, now there's no guest bedroom. We're like, nope, there's not. I need my own. But I think like the other thing I want to say is like, I really value that we get to do this. I think it's the coolest thing we can do, but also like we have seen too many couples who work together where the business is taking off and their relationship suffers.
Yeah.
And that made me nervous. It's another reason why I wanted that coach to help mediate the conversation, because I didn't want this business to skyrocket and us to become buddies.
Yes.
And that was from the start of us working together. We really had to kind of call those fears out and then address them and continue to do that. So for anyone who's listening, like if you really want, if like the marriage is the most important thing, then you got to keep it the more important than the business. And sometimes the time commitment you spend on it is different, but there's got to be something you're doing to make sure you nurture it.
Great advice. This video, along with your written interview, is so full of good tips for couples who are married and also work together. I want to thank you for giving me your time this morning. I know it's valuable and I treasure this time. Our viewers can reach this couple at onlinecouplesclasses.com. or listen to them chat on the Be It Till You See It podcast. So thank you.
Onlinepilatesclasses.com.
I'm sorry, I mispronounced it, didn't I?
Okay, onlinepilatesclasses.com. OPC.
Online couples classes sounds like someone should have that .com.
Yeah.
But online maybe you should, Nancy.
I've interviewed a couple from Germany that have online couples classes. So
Oh,
well, that'd be amazing.
actually, I created an online course to teach couples how to treat each other with respect 24/7 to nurture their love.
Yeah.
A lot of
You've been doing amazing
coaching going on there. That's impressive.
You've been doing amazing things. Yeah, you can find us at Be It Till You See It podcast. Brad joins me on that, and onlinepilatesclasses.com. We'd love to get to know you.
Thank you for clarifying that. I'm sorry I misspoke. But I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the great work that you're doing and the great advice you're giving other couples to work together.
Thanks for having us, Nancy.
Nancy, thank you for letting us do this because it's so fun.
Well, it's fun for me too. It's one of the best parts of my job.
I love that. That's amazing. Great. Well, I think aren't you on the East Coast?
I'm in Southern California.
Oh, you are.
Yes,
Oh,
It's the morning there.
that's right. But for some reason, I thought, where in SoCal are you? We lived in LA for like forever.
I'm in Riverside County in a little community called Murrieta.
Oh,
We
we know
know.
Marietta.
We know it. We used to live in LA. We both lived there for 14 years. Now we're in Vegas. So yeah.
On our last summer tour, we taught in Redlands.
Yes. Oh gosh, Redlands is a beautiful little community.
So cute.
Well, again, thank you so much for your time. I will send you a copy of this video and also be submitting it to Authority Magazine. They will attach it to your written interview to kind of flesh it out a little bit. I'll let you know when that happens.
Please
Thanks
do.
again, Nancy.
Thank you so much.
You're amazing.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
And,